Why is Poland divided?
I would guess by pure coincidence and not by historical implications.
Yeah.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah. I would guess by like which toilet they use
Oh.
based on the thumbnail or
Yeah.
something like that.
Or based off the third letter in your name.
All right, let's check this out. Another Poland reaction. Let us know other good Poland videos to react to down in the comments below. We really don't know what you guys want to see, so let us know.
This just popped up on our home feed because we've been watching stuff about Poland. So we're like, oh, let's watch it.
You can check out our travel vlog channel. We actually went to Poland. We have one video from about an 8-hour layover in Poland that we made a whole vlog about.
Good answer.
It was pretty fun, and we hope to go back to Poland sometime soon, hopefully, when the funds add up to the right amount to fly from Asia to Europe.
If you want to, you can also watch plenty of other travel vlogs on that channel, mostly around Asia recently. It's a fun place.
Heck yeah. Anyways, let's do this. Why Poland is divided.
This
Probably
is a
'cause your
map of
printer
the most
ran out of
recent
ink.
Polish elections. You can clearly see where the conservative government has been defeated by a progressive opposition. Wait, no, this is actually...
Are we getting into a very political video?
It's already political to start.
This is a map of the most recent Polish... houses built before 1945. This is embarrassing. Wait. This is the map of the most recent election. Why do all these maps look the same?
This
Johnny
is
Harris
Poland in
intro?
1635. And together with Lithuania, they have
Wait, so it is historical based.
Oh, good.
a very
good
big
job.
country. In modern times, you would have Ukraine here and Belarus. And for some reason, Sweden is hanging out in Estonia, I hope. And by the
Those
time of
dang
Napoleon, it didn't exist anymore. Poland was unlucky because it was surrounded by some state that decided to become superpowers. Russia, the Habsburg Empire, and the Prussian Empire. They saw Poland as this sort of playground, and they just decided to gobble it all up. It would be 123 years before the Poles would see their country again.
Wow.
And a lot of blood, I'm guessing.
When they got occupied, people were making the first hot air balloons. And by the time Poland researched, they were making televisions.
And not long after that, the
I
podcast
totally thought he was going to say telephone because of this thing.
I
but
thought it was, yeah, same.
guess that's a television.
was invented.
I listen to podcasts a lot, like all the time. When cooking, showering, or listening a lot, like
I wonder if
all
he
the
does
time.
that when he learns something new about Poland. He's like, oh, he's cooking.
When cooking, showering, or listening to, like
What are the
all
odds
the
there's
time.
actually food
When
in there?
cooking, showering,
I
or
see they're
listening
only
to
the
other
reflection of the
podcasts.
spoon.
But sometimes my favorite podcast can't keep up with my listening speed, which means I am alone with the existential dread of my existence. To deal with this anxiety, I have recently been using Blinkist. Blinkist 15 minutes, but just don't have the
Check
time
out
to
the
be listening
sponsorship
to
if you're
the
interested.
Yeah.
philosophy and share them off. Thanks Blinkist for... It's after the First World War and Poland is back on the map. Doesn't really look like the Poland we know, but,
No.
you know, something. It does, however, confuse Stalin and Hitler so much that they quickly go back to bringing Poland into its occupied state, like so. And after they introduce their ideas of minimalist architecture in Warsaw and other places,
Wow.
really trippy.
finally we get
Looking at his face.
Poland.
Yeah.
Now, this is the Poland we do know. Let's take a moment to reflect on the position of Poland over the years. It's moved a lot. After the Second World War, they moved to the west. So they lost all this land to the Soviets and they gained all this land. Land that had been in the hands of Germany for, well, centuries. You can see that in the names of the cities. Danzig becomes Gdansk, Breslau becomes Wrocław, and Stettin becomes... Poland has had their modern borders for almost 80 years now, and that feels long, but when you look at history, that's just the blink of an eye. And this occupation by the Prussians, by the Russians and the Austro-Hungarians, it left its mark on the people. Not only then, but still nowadays. Last October, Simon Pivcik tweeted this map thread. It's 2023, 109 years after World War I started, yet the pre-World War I imperial borders are still visible on the election map of Poland. This thread went viral. As someone who loves how history still influences the present, I had to go talk to him.
I didn't really think too much about it, but then suddenly I saw the borders of the empires from before World War One.
Simon is a Polish map nerd living in San Francisco. He
Was
has been
map
obsessed with these borders since he found a special map.
Probably one of the first viral maps I had was a map of access to restrooms inside of someone's house.
So on this map, he suddenly saw the
Interesting.
borders, and it didn't stop there.
And like since then, like I've been doing more and more maps, and then on a lot of them, these borders actually show up.
We have the map of the recent election. It's quite clear that the progressive opposition won out in the western part of Poland. They also won out in the bigger cities, places where people are generally more progressive. The Conservative Party won more in the east. This is a rural region, and it's also a region that is doing not so well as the rest of Poland. You can find some of the poorest provinces here. But why do these maps show the former imperial borders so well?
Maybe not a lot of people realize, but many parts of Western Poland were kind of like the Wild West only 75 years ago.
A lot of this has to do with the end of the Second World War. Stalin keeps this part to the east, and Poland gained all that German land to the west. And now millions of people are forced from their homes, both Germans and Poles. Many Poles settle in this area, this former German lands. And these Polish people, they not only lost their houses, they also lost their traditions, their communities, but also the social control of a place where you've been living for generations. And with less social control, you can do more what you want. And this makes people, well, less traditional. Another idea is that these migrants invested more in education. The theory is that people that are forced to migrate, they invest in things that are more easy to take with you. And this paper shows how the focus on education in these families is still there this day. You can clearly see the difference in schooling results between those that were forced and those that weren't forced to migrate. Higher education is linked to more progressive views. Another reason why these lands are more progressive could be that they just are closer to Germany. Germany is the biggest economic power on the continent. It's much easier to trade with or work in Germany if you're close. If you zoom out and take a look at the European Union as a whole, the eastern part of Poland is literally at the edge of the EU, further away from economic options. People that are more well off tend to have more liberal views. And in addition, it could also be that eastern Poland is just more rural and older, which makes people more conservative. Now, these are some explanations, but reality is complex. And there are more differences in the past that have an effect and still influence people's lives today. To start with, it's not just on the election map that the differences are visible. People in the East and West also have different jobs.
Agriculture is pretty big in the
Blue-collar,
East.
white-collar,
Like there are
yeah,
still
same.
counties when like 40% of the people working in agriculture, which is almost unheard of in other developed countries.
40%, wow.
But the west of Poland is more focused on industrial and service sectors. But remember that Poland was divided around 1800?
These years are kind of crucial because that's also when the Industrial Revolution started.
When Western economies started to industrialize in the 18th century, Central Europe was like, we'll stick to farming, all right? And this led to differences in, for instance, the railway network. Take this map of the railways around 1900s, and you can see the divide.
Oh, wow.
Western Poland, as part of the Prussian Empire, industrialized way more rapidly than those eastern territories under Austro-Hungarian and Russian control.
Kind of reminiscent to history in the United States somewhat, like just the split of the South United States and the Northern United States.
Especially the like northeast, southeast split.
And now, still to this day in the United States, those are pretty much split politically.
Yes, very.
So
Like, you can see the different lines.
it's pretty interesting.
And this amount of industrialization just doesn't change in a generation or two. But it's not just that. How people do agriculture is also different. You can see this from satellite imagery. The plots in the West are just much bigger. Farms are big companies here. They're producing for the market. But in the East, you find a lot more smaller plots. This is a super complicated thing with many explanations. But there are two things that I want to highlight here. Part of the answer is that in the West, it was way more normal that the older son would get all the land. But in the East, especially in Austria-Hungary, farms could be more easily split up between the kids. So then you get
Interesting,
all these
yeah.
much smaller plots. And it's also in the West where the most parts of the land were collectivized under the Soviet government. And for some reason, that really didn't go through in the East. And now to those maps that made Simon go viral for the first time. Housing. These maps show when houses are built. In general, the West has older homes built before 1945. This is probably the case because these were German lands. And apart from the cities that got, well, leveled, the rest of the countryside just didn't get destroyed as much in the war. But in the East, where a lot more houses were built, building bathrooms inside houses were apparently not a big priority for the communist government. Now,
Where do you poop?
50 to 80%? Yeah, where the heck do you poop?
It's communist. It's communal pooping.
Oh, so they just put like each farm has a hole in the ground, and each city has a hole in the ground.
And then everybody just take. That would suck to have
That
to
would
share
suck.
a toilet with your neighbors.
Imagine like you just want to take that large duker that's just sitting up in there, and then someone knocks on the door, and you're like, occupied, and then that duker just goes away.
And then what if you got food poisoning, and then another person that also ate the same meal as you also got food poisoning?
You're sharing that hole.
Yeah, you gotta.
I have to
I'm
say,
assuming it's not a hole in the
this is not
ground.
Hopefully
the
not.
definitive explanation. Simon told me that it was also more normal for people to build a toilet outside of their house in these parts because they thought
If
it
it's
was
more
just
rural,
less
that makes
unclean,
sense.
which, you know, I can imagine. But if you're a Polish person and you really know why this divide is there, let us know in the comments. I actually really want to know. One map that I really liked is the next one.
In Polish language, there is not that many words that start with an A.
So it means there are almost no cities that start with an A. But if you look at the former Russian area, a different picture starts to emerge. Suddenly you do find them. Dots on the map that represent cities with
Very
an A.
interesting.
So
That's
where
weird.
does this come from? It has to do with these guys. 3 Tsars called Alexander.
What's up with Alexanders and wanting to name a bunch of cities after themselves?
Very narcissistic.
Alexander the Great started it all. That fracker.
So I guess in these lands, if you make a new village, you know, just go for the Tsar. It's probably the best idea. So we have all these maps showing different ways in which Poland is divided. I do have to say that there are also a lot of markers in the modern time that show that these divisions are going away. For instance, if you look at primary school results, and because people are leaving the countrysides for the cities, the old divide makes place for a new one. A divide between city and countryside.
Which you see in
This
every
divide is
country.
something you see all over the world. But apart from that, I think one thing that this story shows is how much changed in the 20th century for Europe, but especially for Poland. I mean, just look at the modern map of Poland. None of their current neighboring countries even existed 30 years ago.
Jeez.
But even
That's
though borders
crazy.
can change very fast, there are things that change a lot slower. Things that still have an impact on the people in the present. Like what kind of infrastructure is built? Do you live close to a railway station? What is the economic situation of your region? Has your family always been into farming? In the West, we like to think of ourselves as individuals. Individuals with free will and the capacity to make choices that impact our lives. But in so many big and small ways, we are the product of our environment.
Did he just say we're basically just on an assembly line and we might as well just go to the final prepackaged, manufactured?
This is a bomb of truth. Boom.
Just drop it. We don't have free will. We're all just heading towards the end of the assembly line where we're sold off.
So, what are we going to do about that?
I don't know.
It's all just a game. The game of life.
You just believe in what they're telling you. The buying the products that they're selling you. They say jump, you say how high. Your brain dead. You got a fracking bullet in your head.
Rap.
It's interesting to see Poland. I mean, because as we've seen from other videos, Poland is rapidly progressing and it's becoming much more of a economic powerhouse in Europe. And to see that divide still exists, and that, like we said, that still exists in the United States. The southern United States is significantly poorer than a lot of the other areas of the United States, and the divide is not only like industry and wealth, but it's politics, and even like the racial makeups are significantly different.
And language people use, like different terms and stuff like that. And also he highlighted the divide that's being created now between city and countryside that's been going on in the U.S. for a while, and it's a huge divide.
Oh yeah.
And then to see that now is making its way into Poland, because I mean, typically with these big cities that are developing very rapidly, a lot of the young people are going to move to those cities for work, and then that brings along certain divides as well when you put age demographics in certain areas.
Poland.
Poland.
You got a future ahead of you. We'll see what the heck happens. We'll see if Europe can hold their peace together for much longer. I mean, we got the Russians coming in, trying to break up Ukraine already. Europe just always has to have a war.
Yeah, what the frack? Because, you know, America hasn't been in any
America
war.
hasn't had any wars in America, though.
That's true.
So it doesn't count.
It's not like they've been at war my entire life.
Well, thanks for watching, everybody. Hopefully you enjoyed. Let us know other good Poland videos we should check out. And where do you see the political divide in Poland going in the future? Do you think things will kind of mend itself and everyone will just come together? Or do you think the divide will just only get wider and wider and wider, and the old people will be like, hey, this is not the Poland I remember?
Let us know what you think in the comments. It's a very interesting video. So it'll be very interesting to see that divide possibly appear in the comments.
Now, please do your best Polish accent.
Gdańsk. You're welcome, sir.
See you next one. Bye.